In this video, I'm going to talk to you about this lens, the Sony 135mm G Master, and this camera, the Sony a7R IV, and how you can use them together for wildlife photography. Hey guys, often when I'm out photographing wildlife, people ask me what the lens is on my second camera. So on my primary camera, I usually have a 400mm prime, and this is the lens that we're going to talk about today, which I have on my second camera. It's the Sony 135mm G Master lens. Why do I use this lens? Well, so firstly, often a lot of people, when they have a second camera to accompany, with a second lens to accompany their longer lens, it's often a zoom lens, such as a 70-200. The 135mm focal length sits right in between 70-200. So you've got something that is right in the middle there, but when you shoot it in crop mode, which you can do quite easily with the Sony a7R IV and still get a lot of detail at 26 megapixels, you're effectively getting a focal length of 200mm. So you've really got two focal lengths here. You've got 135 and then you've got 200 in crop mode. In terms of the size and weight, comparing this to a 70-200, this is so much easier to haul around. So the first thing is that the length of the lens is about half of the length of a 70-200, almost. And then the weight of it is about 2/3 of the weight of a 70-200. So it's a lot easier to deal with. And one of the things that's interesting is if you think about a 200 f2, now there is no 200 f2 right now for the E-mount system, but if you've seen them on other systems, you'll know that the 200 f2 is a pretty big beefy lens, and if you are carrying a 400 or a 600mm prime, you're unlikely to also carry a 200 f2, but you can sort of get the properties of a 200 f2 in this lens, because you have the 200mm focal length when you're shooting in crop mode. Now you're not going to get a depth of field that is as shallow as f2. It's really going to be equivalent more to about f2.7 or f2.8 at 200mm. But that's okay, because you don't really want the depth of field to be so shallow that it's difficult to work with. You don't want to, for example, have a photo of a wildlife subject where one eye is in focus and the other eye is not. So f2.8 works out quite well, but what you are getting is you are getting f1.8 in terms of light gathering, and that's fantastic if you're shooting in low light, early in the morning or late in the day, or any other time that you really don't have enough light. So that's why I really like this focal length. It works really well for me, and also since I'm already shooting a prime on my longer lens, shooting with a prime as my secondary lens also works fairly well for me. And it's all about speed. It just means that I don't have to worry about yet another thing, which is zooming in and out with my compositions. And also, this lens is very fast in terms of its focusing speed. Sony used the same focusing motors in this lens that they used in the 400 and 600mm primes. These are these linear focusing motors that focus very quickly. It allows the lens to keep up with cameras such as the A9 shooting at 20 frames per second. And the thing that's incredible about this lens is just how sharp it is. There's an interesting blog post that the lens rental guys wrote when they were testing this lens, and they were just amazed to find out how sharp it was. And I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. As I mentioned in my Sony a7R IV video that I made recently, this lens, when I started using it with the a7R IV, I really noticed just how much sharper it is than even my 400mm prime, which is a very sharp lens in itself. Now, I always knew it was sharper. I'd seen that before with the a7R III, but with the a7R IV now, there's just incredible detail. If you've not seen my a7R IV video, you'll go check it out, and you'll see that I had a couple of examples in there of images that I took with this lens at 135mm, but then later on I cropped it in to about 10 or 20% of the image, and even that image still has incredible detail. So I think that this is a fantastic second lens to have for wildlife photography. And I know a lot of people don't really think about it as a wildlife photography lens. They think about it as a portrait lens. But of course, we're taking portraits of wildlife, and it works very well. It also works very well for intimate landscape shots as well. So I urge you, if you haven't already tried 135 millimeters as a focal length for wildlife, that you really ought to give it a try. Perhaps rent a lens or borrow a lens, and especially if you're using it with this camera, the A7R4, then you can crop in and still get a lot of detail at 26 megapixels. And you really effectively, as I said, you have like a 200 millimeter lens, almost in your pocket. It's that great. So anyway, I would love to hear from you if you're already shooting with 135, or you've thought about it, or if you give it a try after seeing this video. Love to hear your experiences with it. If you have any questions, please post below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.